Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. The continuation of the Keelcraft rubber powered to RC conversion of the Ajax. I've added some extra pair of main spars onto the wings, 3/32, just let in, and on the center section as well, and on the other wing of course. So they are ready for sanding, but I've just started putting the fuselage down. I couldn't record it as I went because I was waiting for a phone call back, which I did get in the end, but that was just for the Jeremy Vine show BMFA item, but they didn't want to talk to me. Lots of people ringing in, I think. But what I've done, I've spent a few minutes cutting out all the parts. This bit is filled in with a bit of 3/32 sheet. Let's do that one. One of the beauties of putting the pins in either side of the stringers, when I put the next stringers in, I can put the pins in the same holes and I know I've got an identical side. You can build the other side over the top of this one, but I've never been a huge fan of that because you can't get the pin in close because the plastic is in the way in between. So I'm not a huge fan of that technique. Just down to the bottom end here now. So if you cut them slightly over length, I'll just mark that with a little dot. If you cut them slightly over length, you can sand them in. A little tip is if you cut the longest ones first and work your way down to the shorter ones, if you should sand too much off, it's still a useful length for the next one down. It's had a couple of hours, a good couple of hours to dry, so I think I'll pop it off and make the other side up. There we go. That is quite delicate. A lovely little fine structure though, isn't it? Okay, there's one side of the Ajax. I'll put that out of harm's way and we'll lay up the other side and then we can start getting the formers in. Welcome back guys. What have I got then? I've got two fuselage sides. God, these are so delicate. The formers, and this is F2, they are 90 degrees to the structure. What I can do is white glue it and then a bit of CA each end. This is something I sort of do. And I pop the other one in. It goes either way up, but we're going to put the brace in on the inside like that. So now we're going to offer that up. That'll sit like that then. I'm going to build it, I'm going to pin it over the plan, bring the tail end in. Form F1, which I'm going to probably fit in and then face it off with a thin piece of plywood. First thing I'm going to do is to pin the fuselage down so as it doesn't move. And I'm going to do that on this square here. Got a couple of useful balsa blocks here actually. They're 90 degrees, and if I put them there and there, I can bring them precisely over the center line like that, and things are good. That looks quite true actually. So what I want to do actually is let that go off so as I can work on these cross members. In the meanwhile, I guess I could have a look at the front. So the tail end is in and done and glued. I'm just playing with the front end to the same method. The blocks are pinned to the workboard. I'm just offering F1 up. I put white glue on the sides and then just leave the top corners clear. Might be able to get a little bit of CA on there. There's the fuselage taking shape. I've just spent a nice half hour putting in some diagonals just to give it a little bit more strength. It's only 3/32. They weigh precious little, but I think it's stiffened up the back end quite substantially. Just cutting out the inserts for the nose. Little tip for you, because there's a curvature on this, to make it fit, just dampen the outside edge and the wood will expand and put it into a curve. So all I'm doing to cut these accurately is to lay the fuselage onto the wood, lining it up on the back edge. I've supported the fuselage so as I can do this. So line it up on the back edge and sort of hold it in place a little bit, and then just run the scalpel down the outer edge and this edge here. There we go. Right, so that just leaves us the bottom piece to go, and hopefully I can get enough glue in there. So how's it fitting? One drip in there. Come on, there we go. Offered up the motor, and the first line is just above the center line of the F1. So I've marked it up, and there's only 3 mountings on this one. So I've just mounted the top one, marked the top one, and I'm just going to drill a hole. Now this is 1/16 ply. Let's just go in like this. 1/16 ply with a backing of 1/8 balsa, which is the original nose plug balsa. I can pass that cable through and connect it up to the ESC and combined receiver. Marvellous bit of kit that is, isn't it? Fantastic. You'd have thought it. I'll pop it in there. It is off centre because the wire's off centre. The other thing I've done is to put on a pair of 1/8 side cheeks just to finish it off. The little hatch I'm quite pleased with. These side rails are going to help to stiffen up the whole structure because the uprights are glued to them, so the whole lot now is quite a solid little front end. So I'm happy with that. Still got to drill the holes for the undercarriage and mount the tubes in a bit more with the fine side of the sanding block. I can move it onto the rib a little bit now. You can hear it just standing the rib slightly. That's pretty good actually, that's pretty perfect. But it is almost a knife edge. I'll do the other half, and then when that's done, I'll just slice a little tiny bit off the back edge, and then I can sand the rest of it and look at building up an elevator. That's the elevator made. Pretty basic, just cut through the ribs, required amount, put in a couple of bits of wood, and I've hinged it. So that goes up and down. And the rudder, similarly hinged. That will go in there, of course, like that, and that'll sit on the fuselage. But there's plenty of clearance for the rudder. That'll sit on there like that. So I'm going to put the control rod for the rudder down this side and the control rod for the elevator down this side, and it'll exit up here somewhere. It's quite pleasing. The hinge, I've got 3 hinges here, 1, 2, 3, and in the rudder 1, 2. The hinge is 1mm fishing line cut to about 6mm. Important to say 2 things about this if you're going to use it. One, make sure you give it a sanding before you actually use it. Rough it up a little bit for when you put the just a drop of CA on. And 2, when you cut it, don't cut it blunt, because you end up with a sort of a little shoulder. It's difficult to push in, but if you cut it at an angle like that, it goes in really nicely. Little slot in the horn. These are just 1/32 ply by the look of them. Could make them. I quite like these horns because they're so, they're glue in and they don't look too incongruous. Ooh, big word, Cliff. And there we go, look at that. And they work really nice, don't look too big, nicely designed, and they're plywood. All 3 parts of the wings are sanded, and I'm just thinking of gluing them together. The plans say 70mm or 2 and something under each wingtip, 2 3/4 or 70mm, and that's what I'm going to do. So I thought maybe I would pin down the center section, stop it moving about for starters. So what I need to do is to find a couple of supports that will take it up to 70. What I plan to do is to let it set overnight. Obviously when I come to tissue it, I've got to tissue 1 part at a time. So here we go, major step guys. I'm going to make sure I've got plenty on the end grains of the various spars, and in there I've got some end grain, and on the face satisfying. I've got these special ones, reverse pegs. They make quite a good clamp. Hopefully that dihedral brace will be sufficient. Kind of like thinking I should have perhaps beefed it up. As good as I can make it for now guys, so I'm going to stop there and we'll let that set, and tomorrow morning we'll have a look at it. Always an exciting moment guys. Next day, let's just have the wing off the board and take a look at it, shall we? There we go. There we are. Just sighting along it just to make sure things do look as good as they could do. Looks pretty square to my eye, so let's offer it up to the fuselage. Go on there. No, it's not. It's going to go just there. So I've got to stick a piece of this here, 1/2 mil ply there just to take the strain of the rubber bands. That's looking like an Ajax. Just before I wrap this video up, guys, I thought I would just show you what I've decided to do. The servos I'm going to put down the tail end. I'll just extend these leads. I was going to put them here because of the size of the controller arms. It occurred to me that they don't have to be side by side, they can be like that. So I can use center hole for the mounting, so I'm just going to screw them in here. I've just sat a piece of balsa in there for a minute. I'll put a little bit of reinforcement of very light ply across the sides. That was a bit that was before, so a bit like that, just a little tiny piece. And the servos, one can sit at the back, and so the servos will sit at the back. I'll extend the leads right up to the receiver, and all I have to do is to drill the holes for the undercarriage, slip the dowels in. Had a thought, oh, just let me show you this, don't go, hang on. I made a small modification to the wings. I just wasn't happy with those little balsa dihedral braces, what with the extra weight I've put in the model. So what I've done, I've just used the saw, cut down through to the depth of the main spar, and just added a couple of 1mm ply on this side of the main spars. So that's just given it a little bit more security, I think. So the wing is all sanded. It took me forever to sand the trailing edge, but anyway, it's all sanded, ready to go on. So my thought was this: I'll put the dowels in, I'll put the wing on with the bands, and rest the tail in place, and put the electronics in and see exactly where the search is, because it's not going to change a great deal with the covering. And that'll give me a good idea of where things are going to go and exactly how they're going to go. So I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. This is the end of part 3. In part 4, I'll fit the radio gear, do the hardware for the undercarriage, and start to put the covering on. I think it's going to be tissue. I haven't looked through my stash yet. I might have something I can iron on, we'll see, but I don't want the structure to distort, so it's probably going to be tissue and look really vintage, which is going to be brilliant. Whether I copy the colour scheme on the front or not, I don't know. Thanks for following along so far. If you haven't already, hit the little subscribe button, and I'll link to the part 1 and part 2 at the end of this video. Click on the link to the playlist, and if you want to consider following the channel as a member, check out the link underneath on the join button. Thanks very much for watching. See you in part 4. Cheers, guys.